Welcome to Kart Class, brought to you by 18 times Australian champion David Serra. Kart Class strives to give kart racing drivers the fundamental driving skills, kart setup, and the mindset required to take you from beginner to winner. Your host, David Serra, has over 25 years' experience in kart racing and is the most successful driver in Australian history.
G'day guys, and welcome back to another episode of Kart Class. Today we're going to be discussing how do I know if I have too much grip. Obviously it's quite a key topic that a lot of drivers and mechanics ask themselves, because it's hard to distinguish sometimes whether the kart has too much grip, if you're under geared because the kart's not sort of releasing out of the corners as such. So we want to try and give you guys as much information as we possibly can to sort of help you out for the next time at the kart track. Just trying to distinguish whether you have a too much grip or if it's a driving issue. So probably the key factor in regards to whether you have too much grip is looking at lap times and seeing at what stage of the session that your times are at its fastest. So to put it into context, if you're sitting your personal best lap times on laps 3, 4 and 5 of a 10 lap session, that's generally a sign that you have too much grip, because the kart's not able to sustain that speed over the duration of your session as well. So be looking at your lap times, be looking at what laps they're being achieved, and then also from a driving point of view, getting a sense from the seated position that you're in, getting a feel of how the kart actually is handling around the corners. So if you have too much grip, you'll generally feel a bit of a bounce. So the kart will turn in, the inside wheel starts to lift, and then you get a bit of a hopping sensation. So it's sort of like you're sort of just having a nice gentle bounce around the corners. Now that's a key sign that you could have too much grip. So from a driving point of view, just trying to take notice while you're on track around some of these hairpin corners. So you're going to the corners quite fast, you're turning in. If the kart sits, quite flat, or it's lifting up the wheel kind of nicely, nice and smooth, it's not breaking traction, they're obviously all good signs. But as soon as you get the kart turning in, it's sort of the rear wheel sort of just tapping on the ground quite a few times, that's a key sign that you have too much grip. Another one that you want to try and look out for is just trying to listen from a driving point of view, is how the RPM sounds out of a corner. So obviously it's quite critical to keep our RPM and our minimum corner speeds up around the corners. If you can sort of hear the engine sort of labouring out of the corners, so I'm not going to try and make any sound effects here, but sort of you can hear it, just like a handbrake's put up on a car. So instead of it sort of accelerating and increasing the RPM, you can sort of hear it actually dropping before it then starts to pick back up. That's another key sign from a driving point of view that you can then go and tell your parents or your mechanic that, hey, look, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it might have too much grip. So like I said, from a driving point of view, feeling whether you got a hop, also listening to the engine RPM, and also it might not be always that you have too much grip, but also understeer is what you're going to feel when you have too much grip as well. So you're going into a corner, you're turning that steering wheel and it's just pushing straight, so it's not quite turning in initially as much as you would like. So you might not be missing the apexes, but you're feeling it's a little bit tougher to turn the wheels. So it's a little bit physically harder to get the front wheels to turn where you'd like them to. That's also a sign that you might be having too much grip as well. From the sidelines, if our parents or mechanics are watching on, like I said, just trying to keep it on the steering wheel and seeing if it is scrubbing the front wheels. Like I said, the whole bouncing thing should be quite visible to see from the sidelines. You might not be able to hear the engine RPM unless if you're on the track by yourself. Your mum or dad could probably hear the engine RPM, where a driver, if they're only new, they're probably not going to hear it as much. So you want to just, if the parent can hear the kart labouring out of the corners, like it's like you've probably got 2 or 3 sprockets less than the other competitors that you're around, that's another sign. So like I said, if we're going to recap on whether you have too much grip or not, look at what stage of the session you are incurring. You're doing your best laps. If it's 50% or in the first half of the 50% of the session, that's a great sign that you've got too much grip. Obviously, if the driver's point of view, if you've seen the kart bouncing, if you're feeling the kart bouncing around the corners, if the kart if the engine's just labouring out of the exits, and also if you're incurring a fair bit of understeer on the approach to the corners as well. So they're sort of some of the signs that you want to basically take notice of, and then you can basically make the best decisions moving forward in how to get the kart right from there. So that's all from us today at Kart Class. I'm your host, David Serra. If you guys want to know more questions or have your questions answered, please feel free to hit us up at kartclass.com.au, where we'll give you all your karting needs. Cheers until next time.
If you've enjoyed today's episode and want to learn more about your kart racing, be sure to check out kartclass.com.au for driving courses catered to all skill levels.